This podcast is brought to you by the North Dakota Petroleum Foundation. From heating our homes and powering our vehicles to cell phones, clothing, and medical equipment, oil and natural gas makes everyday life better. North Dakota Oil and Natural Gas, advancing the possibilities. Learn more at ndpetroleumfoundation.org. Welcome to Plain Talk Live. I'm your host, Rob Port. Today, we're going to talk about vaccinations, which you're probably like, well, gosh, we've been talking about vaccinations so much. We're always talking about vaccinations, but it's an important topic. What interested me, there was a column published this morning before Jay and I, before the stream that you're watching, by Mike McFeely, a columnist at Forum Communications, and in it, his headline was that. Well, and now I don't have his headline right here in front of me, but it was. I
got it. It's McFeely. Unvaxxed mostly deserves scorn.
Yeah, that's right. And then in it, he goes on to argue that we, essentially the unvaxxed are mostly Trump supporters, and we ought to not like them. And that interested me because I think Mike McFeely wants people to be vaccinated. I want people to be vaccinated, or more specifically, I want people to go and talk to their doctors and then and listen to their doctor's advice. I think their doctors are going to tell them to get vaccinated, and because I think for most people, vaccination is the right choice. But go talk to your doctor. What interests me though is that this idea that people who are vaccine hesitant are somehow falling into one specific political category, Trump supporters, and that they deserve our scorn. That's just more of the deplorable stuff we saw that didn't work out too well for our liberal friends in 2016. And if you're really supportive of the idea of people getting vaccinated, is insulting them the right way to go about doing that? Here to talk with me, of course, is Jay Thomas, host of the Jay Thomas Show. We talk every Monday on my show and then on his show. His show, of course, you can catch on WDAY AM 970 in Fargo and points beyond via the internet at 2 to 5 p.m. weekdays. And Jay, you've even actually been hosting a lot on Fridays in the summer, which is unusual for you.
I'll go back to my doctor hours. Busy summer, man. Busy summer because we're back to normal, but I don't know. You start reading around other parts of the country, Rob. I don't know. That back to normal could be going away. It is in some parts of the country, and all the blame is going on people that are not vaccinated.
Well, that's right. Yeah, we're seeing an uptick here in North Dakota. We're seeing an uptick across the nation. A lot of that's attributable to this Delta variant, which again I think is a reason why people ought to consider getting vaccinated, and why they maybe ought to consider their children getting vaccinated, because I guess the first wave of COVID came through and it kind of seemed like younger people were exempt from it. That may not necessarily be true with this new wave. Regardless, what did you make of this column, this argument that people who are vaccine hesitant, we ought to just give them scorn. We ought to just I don't know. What do you make of that argument?
Well, I look at it I'm looking at it as just trying to stir the pot, and to make it about. Well, it's already COVID has turned political. It's been political almost from the get-go. But to try to still use the old Trump line, hey, it's President Trump's people that aren't getting vaccinated. Look, I know a lot of people that are not Trump supporters that have not gotten vaccinated. They adamantly will not get vaccinated because they don't trust the vaccination. And I don't know anybody that's not going to get it because they're one of those conspiracy theorists that think there's a microchip in it. They just don't trust what's been coming out from the government. And I'm with you. I believe McFeely wants people to get vaccinated. I'm quite sure he is. But look, Mike, if you're watching this, and I know McFeely watches this, look, all you're doing is making the problem worse, because the more people are pushed to do something, especially from the government, or the more that they're chastised or called names, the more they're going to stick to their guns and stand their ground. I've said all along the government has handled they've handled the whole COVID thing ridiculously, but the vaccination part of it, quit jamming it down people's throat. Just simply do an ad campaign that says, look, the vaccinations are available in your area. Go to this site to find out where you can get them, and talk to your doctor and your family and leave it at that. The president, columnist, talk show host, whoever, whatever walk of life, quit pushing it on people. If you want more people vaccinated, stop with the name calling, stop with the pushing of it, stop with the threatening, and just let people make that decision.
And I there are people, and we had, when I was on your show last Monday, there were people calling in and they were upset that we were even talking about vaccines, and I kind of went off on them a little bit, and maybe I shouldn't have, but
no, dude, that's the one thing on my show. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. Everybody's entitled to go ahead.
I went off on them a little, but what frustrates me is the idea, because you say don't push the vaccine. I would say there's absolutely nothing wrong with people saying vaccines are available. And people going out and making the case, right? Making the argument for getting vaccinated. There's nothing wrong with that. Where I draw the line is we're going to shame people, or we're going to try to force them or manipulate them into get it. That's where you're going to get the pushback.
But there's also nothing wrong with people not wanting to get the vaccination for whatever reason. Calling them names and ripping them apart and putting a scarlet
isn't going to
letter
persuade
on
them.
Is not helping it.
No, it's not going to persuade them. And by the way, to this idea that it's mostly Trump supporters is actually my good friend Jim Garrity, who writes. He's a columnist for National Review. He wrote a column about this today, and he just looked at some of the numbers. As of this weekend, 41%. This is per Jim's numbers. 41% of New York City residents were not vaccinated. Trump only won 22% of the vote in New York City. In Chicago, 43% of residents are not vaccinated. Trump only carried 24% of the vote in Cook County, where Chicago is. In Multnomah County, which includes Portland, Oregon, just under 63% have at least one dose, meaning 37% are unvaccinated. Trump won under 18% in that county. You have the New York Times back in April. They published a statistical analysis, and they showed Trump voting areas had higher levels of vaccine hesitancy and had lower vaccination rates than Biden voting areas, which is okay, except if you look closely, I mean, there were some places at the time, and this was in April. Obviously, some of these numbers have changed since then, but at the time, Hawaii was well below the 40% vaccination rate, putting it at the lower end of the spectrum of states on vaccination rates, and yet went overwhelmingly for Joe Biden. Pennsylvania, Oregon, Nevada, Michigan all had relatively low vaccination rates at that time, and all of those states went to Joe Biden. So the idea that this is just a Trump phenomena, I think is myopic, although I think it is endemic to something. I read something somewhere, Jay, and I'll see if you agree with this. The national news media, it can seem like they only really report one story, or they're only really covering one beat. And that one beat is presidential politics. And they have to bring around every other story that they report back to presidential politics or back to partisan politics. And I think that's what they're doing here. I don't think that the debate over vaccines is necessarily a partisan Republican thing. Now, people who have a certain political outlook may color their view on vaccinations. But this move to make it immediately a political story and a presidential story, I think is unfortunate. Stop doing that. Not every story is a political story.
Well, here's the thing that gets me. The folks like McFeely and others that are trying to hang the scarlet letter and scorn people and blame it again. We're basically going back and blaming Trump. If you want to play that game, that's your choice to do.
Which is funny, by the way, because Trump is vaccinated. Trump got vaccinated. Not only was Donald Trump vaccinated, his administration oversaw the development of the vaccines.
That's where I was going. President, where's the kudos to President? See, the folks like this, they can't give President Trump anything. They just, I can throw Trump in here and I can get clicks, I can get this, I can get. Well, look, you're right. I was just going to say, Trump is the guy that pushed to get this thing through. Where's the credit there? You're all loving the vaccinations now, which is fine. That's your choice. But you're going to, in the same breath, you're going to rip former President Donald Trump when former President Donald Trump's the guy who said, we are getting this vaccine through. We're getting it through immediately. Where's the credit for that?
Yeah, well, exactly. And do you think now you actually had, when we last talked on Monday, you said that you were going to be going to the doctor your
Mhm.
doctor to talk to him and ask him about the vaccine. You want to share that with us? Because you're somebody who's been a little skeptical of it, or at least I think maybe on the fence about it. You went and you talked to your doctor. What happened?
Well, I'll tell you, the reason I've been on the fence, I don't get the flu shot. I got the flu shot one time in my life. Um, but I know that COVID is, people try to compare it to the flu. It is different. It is, if you get it, some people, it's a lot of people, it's deadly. Okay. I get all that. Um, so when it comes to the vaccination, I just I read as much as I can, but you don't know what you're reading, if it's fact, if it's opinion, if it's so I've said, I have my yearly physical. I had it on Friday, and I've said I'm going to talk to my doctor and see what he says. And I had a long conversation. We good half hour, maybe 45 minutes. We talked, and I asked him. I said, look, doc, the situation I'm in. I'm 55 years old. I'm a smoker of over 40 years. I take blood pressure pills. Imagine that. Cholesterol. I'm on vitamin D, which I've taken for years, and I do think that vitamin D has helped keep me from getting ill. Not just COVID, flu, everything else. I just don't get sick, and I do enjoy my beer. So it's kind of surprising that I just don't get sick. And he said, Jay, a guy in your situation. And he said, I've been your personal doctor for years. I know you inside and out.
Literally.
Whoops. He said, take it. He said, take the Pfizer. He said, I have no concerns when it comes to side effects for you. He said, everybody's different. But he said, look, he said, I've heard you on the radio say, talk to your doctor. He said, I applaud that, because that's the way it should be. It shouldn't be about politics. And I sat and talked with Alex a little bit about it. We're going to talk some more because, our lives are together for 26 years. So
Right.
she's going to have a say in this. But I'm leaning very heavily. I made an appointment for August 4th for my first shot. So
Yeah.
after her and I talk some more, I mean, right now, Rob, and your viewers, I'm at about 90%. Somebody made a comment to me Friday on my show, and I thought, holy cow, how can you, there's no comeback for this. He said, Jay, what's the worst thing you've ever put in your body? And he said, think about all your years when you were younger, you partied, the dumb thing. He said, think of all the crap you put in your body. He said, I can think of all the crap I put in my body, and the vaccine didn't scare me one bit. That's the least of my worries. I'm like, that's kind of hard to argue,
Yeah. Well, I think there can be another side of this coin where you have, I think the people like McFeely who want to make this like just this partisan, ugly issue, another front in the culture war, and we're going to scream at each other and we're going to scorn people who maybe just haven't gotten to the point where they want to get the vaccination yet. And also let's be clear. The government has been sending so many mixed messages back
Oh,
before they won I mean, Kamala Harris was talking about how
even
she
my
might.
doctor brought that up. Even
Yeah.
my doctor said, I just do not understand how the government is sending all these mixed messages, and they're one of the biggest problems for people not getting vaccinated.
Yeah. Well, it's mixed messages from before the election. Kamala Harris suggesting she might not get the vaccine because it was developed under the Trump administration. So she's out there sowing distrust. You have, the fact that, we're continuing to push like all these restrictions, even for people who have been vaccinated. If you want people to believe that the vaccines work, then you need to behave like they work, or allow them to behave like they work. So that's, a lot of that stuff is mixed messages. It's all over the map. And that's, but there's another side of the coin where you have people who will get upset if you even talk about being vaccinated. I mean, when I went and got vaccinated, I ended up getting the appointment at Thrifty White Drug, because when I talked to I was obviously in the hospital for a couple of weeks with COVID. When I was first talking to my doctor about it, the vaccines weren't available for me yet. I asked him. He said, get Moderna or get Pfizer, whichever one's available, and get it as soon as it's available for you. That's what my doctor, and I followed that advice, and I got the vaccine. I ended up going to Thrifty White Drug to get the vaccine, and I just posted a picture of my little sticker on my coat after I got the vaccine, and like 300 comments later on Facebook, Jay, of people just ripping me. And I didn't tell all I said was, hey, I got the vaccine, or now Rob Port now in the vaccinated variety, I think was the joke I made. And people just ripping me. That's the other side of the coin. Like that's basically the same attitude that McFeely's having. Like, I get it. Let's not scorn people who are vaccine hesitant. Let's also not scorn people who have made the decision. Don't call them sheeple.
No.
Don't call them stupid. They were obviously satisfied with the safety, whatever set of criteria they went through or whatever process they went through to arrive at the conclusion that the vaccine's right for them. Don't shame them either. Like, just stop it.
Rob, it was the same thing with the mask debate. You know, I was 100% anti-mask. I still am. But I would get so mad when I'd see somebody walk into a store and one of the employees there, hey, you have to have a mask on. And they just start ripping on this employee. Look, if you don't like it, then you turn around and you leave the store. Don't be ripping on the employee that's just doing their job. And those employees should have never been put in those positions. With the vaccine, look, whether I get it or not, I'm not gonna go out and preach every day. Hey, I got the vaccination and you need to get it. And I'm not gonna go on there. Hey, I didn't get it. Don't do it. I'm not, because this is between you, your doctor, and your family. And again, I wish the government would stop with all this pushing so hard, because that's what's stopping people from. Not everybody, but that's what's stopping people. I think there's a lot of information out there, but I think there's a lot of misinformation. It's confusing. And, when we heard that you're going to get the vaccination, you're good to go. You get the vaccination, you can go rock and roll, enjoy life. Now it just yesterday, right. I call him Dr. Fugazi because I don't trust a damn thing that comes out of his mouth. Dr. Fauci.
He's really become just a poor spokesman.
Oh, this guy is horrible. And now it's yes, even vaccinated, you need to be wearing your masks. Stop it. That's not helping people get vaccinated either, because now people are going, wait a minute, I'm not putting this thing in my body if I still have to wear a mask. I'll just wear a damn mask if I have to in places. It's a complete mess. Then you got the VAERS that had, went from 12,000 overnight to 6,000 people that had side. I mean, the whole thing, Rob, is a mess. But once again, hey, we're the government. We're here to help.
And let's be honest. I mean, there are people out there who are trying to promote the idea that it's. I mean, I agree with everything you just said, so I'm not disputing what you said. But there are also people out there who are trying to capitalize on this because they have a business model that is based on paranoia and scaring people so that they get clicks, and that's or get viewers or what have you, and that's unconscionable. But like here in North Dakota, I think they've largely done a good job. We haven't put in place, but although there is a big regional company that is moving towards a vaccine mandate, and so we're gonna talk about them in just a moment. But I think the North Dakota Department of Health has done a great job. Yes, they're encouraging people to talk to their doctors and get vaccinated. They're doing informational seminars about, they just did one, I know it came up on your show, they just did one last week about people talking about the vaccines impacting fertility in women, right? I mean, that's a valid concern. If you're a woman and maybe you want to have children one day and the vaccine could maybe prevent that, that's something. So they're out there trying to put out this information as best as they can. They're trying to provide North Dakotans with the best information that they can provide in order to help them make an informed choice. That's the approach that we need. That's exactly the approach. That's not pushing the vaccine. That's just trying to inform people and help them make their choice.
We are now moving into another scary realm of Rona and vaccinations, and we knew it was coming. And you just touched on it a little bit, and that is, you are seeing now businesses, corporations mandating vaccinations, and I don't like that. Now, business, that's their decision, that's their business, but you're putting yourself in a situation that is going to divide your employees. And here in North Dakota, we already have a problem trying to get people to fill these jobs. Sanford Health, as of November 1st, you have to have a vaccination. And I'm telling you, you're going to see people leave the job because of that. There's already a shortage in healthcare. Now, I just read this morning, I'm sorry, I didn't read it, it was on the news. I believe it is the Pittsburgh Steelers. What they are going to, because the NFL has now said, you want to work in the NFL. No, this isn't players. This is coaching staff and others. you have to have a vaccination. Well, Minnesota Vikings already lost one of their coordinators. He said, I ain't getting it. I'm out of here. Now we find out the players will not be forced to have this vaccination by the NFL, but the coaching staff and everybody else will, which doesn't make any sense to me at all. But now we find out, I believe it's the Pittsburgh Steelers, what they're going to do is if you're a player and you don't have the vaccination, they're looking at you wearing a yellow band. It's what are you doing? Why are you all you're doing is dividing people even more. And we're going to see this more and more. It's not going to be the government, Rob and viewers, that is going to force the vaccination. It is going to be corporate America, because you're going to see it happen. Ticketmaster months ago said, we're looking at doing either sections or not selling you tickets if you're not vaccinated. Ticketmaster controls a majority of concerts in this country and sporting events. You're going to see smaller venues doing it. That's how this vaccination's going to get pushed. That's what you're going to see happen.
I think it's a mistake. I think that they're going to eventually, I think we're going to hit a point where most Americans choose to be vaccinated. I think it's going to be an overwhelming majority, because I think it just makes sense. I think most of them they're going to talk to their doctors, they're going to talk to other health professionals, they're going to watch their friends and families and community members getting vaccinated with no problem. And I think they're going to arrive at that conclusion, hey, this is something I should get to protect myself. This is something my children should get to protect my children. I think the overwhelming majority of Americans are going to get there, over 75%. I think that's where we're heading long term. I think we're going to get to that goal more slowly than we would have with these heavy-handed tactics, because the more they're just pushing it like this, the more I think some of the hesitant are going to dig in. And I say that. I don't understand somebody who would quit their job over having to get the vaccine. Now, that being said, I would be resentful if somebody came and told me I had to get one. Sure, I would be resentful, and I got it. I don't like it. It's just my makeup, and I think a lot of Americans are that way. Don't tell me what to do. I made the decision for myself. I think the best thing is just to give Americans the room to get there on their own. Whatever path they take to getting vaccinated, I think the overwhelming majority of Americans are going to get there eventually. Just inform them, encourage them, and leave it at that.
Well, the goal of 70% by July 4th was absurd.
Yeah.
That was not going to happen. You know what one of my concerns is when it comes to the vaccine, even after talking to my doctor, one of my concerns, and this may sound crazy, but okay, and I brought this up to him. You get the side effects now. Some people do, some don't. And he said, look, Jay, you're going to have a sore arm with the first one. He said the second one, good possibility you're not going to feel great for 24 hours. I said, okay, all right. And there's some people it has no effect on like that. But my concern is, what happens a year from now? Are there side effects all the way down the road a year from now?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that's legitimate, because we just don't know. And why has the FDA not approved this thing?
Yeah, that's not helping either. I don't think there's any good reason. I don't think there's any good reason at this point for them not to approve it. I was just reading an article. I mean, it's the COVID-19 vaccine is such an unusual situation. I mean, this is not at all how a vaccine would normally be brought to market. It's the FDA's waiting on approval, even as the shots being put in the arms of any American that wants them. The vaccines are readily available. Millions and millions and millions of Americans have already gotten it. Millions and millions and millions of more Americans are going to get it. It leaves you wondering, what is the point of the FDA? I mean, if we're doing that, you're literally putting the shot in people's arms, and the FDA can't sign off on it. I mean,
and I think because they haven't signed off yet, let's say the FDA tomorrow says, okay, we're signing off on this. This is FDA approved. Will that put shots in more people's arms? It will, but I don't think the number is going to be huge, because people are going to go, okay, why all of a sudden? That's going to be the argument. Why all of a sudden? Why did it take so long? It's just, there's no win here. And you just said it. You're just going to have to let people take their path. And that path may be months for them. It's just, again, the constant jamming it down our throats by the government is not helping, not one bit.
No, I don't think so. And again, choice is better than force. If you can inspire people to make a choice, then it's going to be a good choice. If you force them, they're going to be resentful. I mean, even if you're successful and you make them do it, the next time around, when we have some situation in the future where, we want the government wants to come out and say, hey, we need to do this or whatever to protect our communities, their ability to do that has already been diminished by what we just went through. And it's just, and also the point you just made, like Joe Biden came in swinging, right? Like before Biden got elected, the vaccine was terrible because it was a Trump thing, and Trump gets no credit for it. Joe Biden gets elected, all of a sudden he takes credit for everything, and he sets these absurd goals that we want to get to. He didn't hit them, and so how much of this pushback, we're gonna blame the deplorables for not getting vaccinated? How much of that is just political cover for Joe Biden, because Joe Biden is not doing a great job administering or handling the pandemic, which is something he campaigned on heavily.
This administration is horrible, absolutely horrible. You shake your head, you look at the moves they're making, what they're not doing, and and this has nothing to do with him being a Democrat. It is sad. You see the situation on the border. It is not being taken care of at all. We've got this big concern about COVID in this country and this Delta, but yet we're letting hundreds of thousands come through that border. I can't believe the times we're living in. And as long as this continues, Rob, and we already are in it, we are in a civil war in this country. It's a cultural civil war. That's what we're experiencing right now, and it's going to get worse.
And that's why I want to just cool it with some of this stuff. Like the vaccine shouldn't be a culture war thing. It should be informed Americans arriving at a decision for themselves.
And a decision they made themselves.
We're making the vaccine available. We're making the best information we have available to people. We have our medical community engaged. You can go. You can talk to your doctor. Just let it happen. I mean, why does everything have to be culture war? But that's probably a topic for a whole other
again,
show.
I want to go back to the talk to your doctor thing. Look, like I said, I get my physical once a year, and I trust my doctor. I do. I mean, come on, the guy makes decisions for me that are based on me breathing or not. So when he tells me, Jay, I feel confident with you getting the shot, it puts me at ease. I still have concerns, and I got to think this thing through. But again, talk to your doctor. Don't talk to friends or people on social media. Don't listen to the talking heads on television or even on the radio. Make that decision on your own. And if you feel right now is not the right choice, or not the right time, that's your choice. I'm not a guy that's going to go, oh my God, you're a moron, or you got it, shame it. This is between you, your doctor, and your family. And we just got to quit with this, believing everything we see or read because.
And by the way, that goes for.
Go to your doctor.
And by the way, that goes for both sides, right? Like don't be against the vaccine because you read some screed on Facebook from a guy who said my uncle was a doctor in the 1960s and he doesn't think people should get vaccinated. Well, maybe that's not the best. Maybe just go talk to your doctor who practices medicine in 2021 and knows your specific medical history and can give you advice based on what he knows about you or she knows about you. I don't understand it. And also, if you see somebody and they're making a decision about the vaccine you don't like and you want to talk to them about it, why not just be respectful? Why not just ask them, hey, how come you made that decision? Why did you decide to get vaccinated? And if you get asked that question, don't get defensive about it. Just give them the honest, I talked to my doctor, or I read the studies, or whatever your path was, and that's why I made the decision for me. And then don't resent them for it. They made a decision. It's not your decision. Move on with your life.
Don't resent them. It's their. They made the decision. It's their body. It's not yours. They made the decision to get the jab. What the hell do you care?
Yeah, exactly. What's coming up on your show, Jay?
Oh, dude, actually, busy day. We got Rob Board coming up as always. I'll
try not to shout at anybody this time. I'll try not to.
You just toss something out and we go from there and have fun. What else? Oh, I got Ag Commissioner Doug Goring coming on at 3:35.
How about
I can't believe the USDA said no to North Dakota early haying. Are
Yeah.
you kidding me?
Yeah.
And in the past, they've done it. So he's joining me. Brian Shin with the Fargo Blues Festival. That's coming up this weekend in Fargo. That thing draws thousands of people. That's at Newman Outdoor Field. Have a little fun with him. And then we have another situation I'm hearing about here in Fargo. It's been quiet for a while. But Faith Dixon, with the head of Black Lives Matters here in Fargo, from what I understand, was pulling some crap when it comes to parking at the Fargo Air Show. So I'm doing a little digging into that, telling people that it's $5 to park here at a business, and people were telling her, no, we don't believe in your organization. So instead of her saying, okay, she decides that she's going to start screaming at people and calling them racist and hollering at them.
Well,
Just had
I
it.
think and you know me, I believe there's so much mistrust between law enforcement and some of those communities that we want to have that argument. And I'll tell you, people who don't help that argument are the alarmists who are constantly going off about every little thing. So that's all going to be interesting. Of course, I'm going to be on with Jay this afternoon. Tune in for that, 2 to 5 p.m. Jay, thanks for your time.
Oh, hey, by the way, can I pop you on at like 2:20 because we got storms brewing
220.
again. So
We had storms brewing again. Yeah, that's can we
another Monday.
are we just gonna blow through all the commercial breaks again like last time?
No, because the storms aren't coming until after I get off the air. So Wysock, you'll join. So we'll hook up with you about quarter after.
Quarter after. All right, that sounds good. Whatever. You see what Jay does to me? Just bumps me around. Whatever. Just bring Port on.
I'm quite sure you'll give me one day on it. So
thanks, Jay.
Thanks, brother.